As a true crime podcast host, going to the childhood home of a killer with just a taser doesn't seem like a really good idea. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. Clearly, not at home, different digs. Vacation. Had a little take a moment to go get away, do some Thanksgiving. Happy holidays to everybody. But that is why things look a little bit different behind me. But that does not stop me from taking a look at the latest episode of Chucky, episode 7, called Twice the Grieving, Double the Loss. This is what they call the penultimate episode. Fancy way of saying the second to last episode. In this penultimate episode, it does what most episodes, second to last episodes do. It sort of takes all the characters that have existed and put on the board and places them in spots so that when we get to the finale, we can just go. And that's what this does, which means that a lot of this episode gets our characters stuck in sort of quicksand and they're sort of stalled and running through the paces because there's not a lot they can do to grow because the writers know that they have to be in a certain place by the end of this episode so that they can kick off the big grand finale. And that's sort of just the issue with penultimate episodes. All the characters here, except for I would say the exception is Junior, kind of feel like there is no movement or growth. They're kind of just running through the paces. So with this episode, it opens with us at a wake for Bree, who has just committed suicide but has been killed by Chucky, as we know. And Junior's dad is mourning, but Junior is pissed. He's angry, he's upset, he's hurt. He punches Jake because he blames him for everybody that comes around you dies. You're just a murder magnet. He sees Jennifer Tilly show up and kiss his dad in the mouth and then just leave. Which, for those of you not following, in this world, uh, Tiffany, the murderer who we see in the flashbacks and who was the doll, has taken her soul, similar to how Chucky has put it in Nika, has taken her soul and put it into famous actress Jennifer Tilly. So this is actually super meta. Jennifer Tilly, the voice that plays Tiffany, is now Jennifer Tilly in the real world, voiced by, it all makes sense. But that's who shows up to the house and kisses. And he has none the wiser. Junior's dad is like, I don't know who this woman is, but Junior believes the way this is all being set up, that his dad was cheating on his mom. Just a further way to sort of descend Junior down a further path of destruction. In this, Jake, Lexi, and Devin sort of decide to split up. More so Devin, less so Jake, and Lexi sort of just going with whomever seems to be winning the argument or discussion. Um, Devin wants to separate and kind of do his own thing. He's hurt, and understandably, he just lost his mother. Jake is rah rah, like let's go, let's keep this fight going, and Lexi's kind of like, well, I'm gonna go with whichever way we go. Lexi and Caroline's mother and terrible mayor decides that she still wants to hold whatever function they were going to have. It's a Frankenstein viewing party the next day, and that she completely blows off all the murders and all the death that has been happening. These reporters are asking her question after question. She's like, "Nah, yeah, it's fine. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about watching Frankenstein." Great mayor. Um, but in that, Caroline says that Chucky has asked her to kill Lexi, her mom, and her dad. So what we learn is just that overall, this entire season, Chucky has been trying to get young people, kids, to kill. For whatever reason, there seems to be an end game for it. He specifically asked Jake, Lexi, and Caroline to all kill for him. And it gets set up with sort of asking Junior in this episode. So there's something to the effect of him asking innocent people to kill that I think manifests for his voodoo stuff. Something is connected in one way or the other. Jake and Devin break up, although I don't know if they were ever really together. They kissed and held hands, but does that make them a couple? I don't know how millennials. I don't know how they date, or is it, what are they? Zennials? I don't know. I don't know how they date. Maybe they were dating at that point. Who knows? But they decide to break up, and for a very harsh reason, Devin was like, "Yeah, every time I see your face, I see my dead mom's face." And Jake's like, "Well, can we still hang out?" Which clearly he's hearing one thing, Devin's saying another. They're splitting apart and they are not going to be around each other. And it's pretty harsh thing to say to a guy you're supposed to care about. Jake takes that as a like, I need to leave here, Jake. So he plans to run away. He goes home to grab all of his bags. He takes a sack and puts it on his back. He's ready to head out. He steals money from his uncle's wallet and heads to the train station. And at the train station, he sees a UPS delivery person having a good guy dial. He follows him and he sort of pays him off. Just like, hey, let me get that doll, and he beats up the doll and just kind of like takes out his aggression, thinking that it's a Chucky doll. But before he does that, he does get the address conveniently. It just it's a lot of stuff seems a little too easy, but he gets the address of where they're going to deliver the good guy doll. At that point in time, it doesn't ring any ideas, but it'll come back. This is the part of the episode that bothered me. Devin does the dumbest thing I think his character could possibly do, and it doesn't make sense for who his character is. He's the son of a cop, and he is a person who has followed murder and mystery and true crime for quite some time. But while he is packing and deciding to like move on to his next chapter of his life, he looks at the newspaper clippings and sees that Charles Lee Ray's home, and he decides to go there on his own with a taser. None of that makes any sense to me. He gets there, and Nika is tied up, and he decides to free Nika. And we as an audience see Nika stand up and immediately know, guess what? That ain't Nika. That's Chucky. Don't fret. Chucky doesn't kill him. He looks like he is going to use him as bait. He's there to set up a trap for whatever happens in the future to get the rest of the other kids there, because as we go back, we see that Jake decides not to run away, and he goes over to Lexi, and they sort of reconcile. Lexi is like, hey, we family. Small Dominic Toretto tear. Family. And she's like, you're the family that I chose. And that's where they've sort of rebuild that bond of the three of them. It's also quick. That's a part of this episode, too. When you do penultimate episodes, a lot of people take logical steps that just don't make sense. Devin going to this house all of a sudden for reasons, these two breaking apart and coming back together, all within a 20 to 35-minute run. Just, it's rushed to get to the finale. And I think the finale is going to be great. I just feel like these last two episodes have kind of like grinded the speed and the efficiency that the show was doing to a sort of a halt to get here. But in their conversation, they're like, we're family. I wasn't going to leave. I was going to leave, but now I'm here. Let's figure this stuff out. Let's find Devin. Jake tells Lexi what the address is that this is going to be delivered to. She looks it up, Googles it, and says, hey, this is the home of Charles Lee Ray. Crap, how about that? And then they try to find Devin. Devin's not answering phone. They do the drop pin as to where their friend is, and you guessed it, they find out he's at Charles Lee Ray's home. So they are on their way there. The only other things that happen outside of the main story, which we'll get on in just a minute, is that Andy is on his way to reconvene with those folks and Jake and all of them, but he leaves Kyle behind. He locks the door. They have a moment. He just peels off. I feel like of all the people in this world, Andy was the one who feels he's the most probably responsible. He doesn't want to bring anybody else down, so he feels like he's going to try to handle this on himself. Also, Andy's done some really torturous and crazy things in regards to Chucky, so I don't know if he wants his sister to see the depths that he's willing to go to end this. So he just goes off on his own. So the meat of this episode comes in the descent of Junior into darkness. After seeing what he saw at the wake and kind of just stewing in his own anger, seeing his cousin steal money, he's just upset. Tiffany comes back as Jennifer Tilly and drops off some meatballs and kind of says, oh, your dad would love, this is his favorite meal, he loves them. She's sort of just planting more seeds that she's been around this whole time. But then like saying, oh crap, you didn't know, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to tell you, and sort of just scurries off, putting more doubt into his head. Then when he goes upstairs, Chucky's in his room, and Chucky is in full-blown, let me Iago you to death. Let me whisper sweet nothings in your ear about how bad your family is, your girlfriend, your cousin, all of them. You need to kill someone to fix this. And he decides to. He basically like you can be more of a man than Jake was. And he does. After a tit for tat where he uses Chucky sort of as a mouthpiece to kind of get out a lot of the anger he has. His dad says some pretty shitty things to him. And basically says that your mom quit. Just like you're a quitter, your mom quit on life. And at that point, Junior loses it and uses Chucky as a weapon to kill him. And it is brutal. It is violent, it is brutal, it is gruesome. It's probably one of the best deaths in this series because, one, it also is emotionally heavy because of who it is, like son and a father, but it is also just violent. His whole face is bashed in, it's blood. It's brutal and gorgeous if you're a horror fan. But the main thing is this: we finally get the resolve that Chucky got one of these young kids, these one innocent folks, to kind of kill, and that seems to have been the big resolve to get to whatever he needs to get to. It looks like he is building a Chucky army, um, which is insane. All these dolls are being sent there. You see Devin in the last shot sort of taped up with looking at all these dolls. So I don't know if this spell that he's cast uh, needs him to like sacrifice an innocent life or sacrifice an innocent person or have get an innocent person to do a murder or a deed to kind of spread his voodoo stuff to all these other dolls, or this is way out, but if we're bringing everything else into this world, what if you need an innocent person to kill to bring Glenn back? Put Glenn in Junior's body, and then your whole family sort of reconnected. That's just way outside the box, what I'm thinking. But like, I don't quite see the reason why this innocent thing is happening. These innocent person and getting kids to kill is happening yet. I do still think Caroline has a piece of Chucky's soul in him. I just don't think you leave with that being left alone. I think even if they finish the finale and everything happens, I feel like the post credits are going to be like, oh, guess what? Caroline has a soul of Chucky in her. Flashbacks. The flashbacks for this episode don't really offer anything new. You just get to see that Charles and Tiffany, like usual, are a bickering couple who has had issues, and they get mad when one kills without the other. The only thing that I think it really offers is that it gives sort of a timeline. It exists in 1988, which seems like it is placing as he leaves and says, "I'm going out for the night." And she's like, "Where are you going?" "I'm going out for the night." I feel like that is the placement where we get Charles Lee Ray at the top of Child's Play 1. Sort of all bridges together. But outside of that, it doesn't really add anything to their story or their characters or who they are to this other than placement. Which even the flashbacks are doing the stalling till we get to a point. It's just a weird thing when you're trying to connect the world and try to connect so many stories together. You end up with this kind of like, let's get to it. So all in all, I think this is a fine episode. I have not liked as much as I've liked the rest of the series. I have not liked the last two episodes as much because it seems like we're kind of just going through the motions to set up what I think is going to be a badass and kick-ass finale. I think watching it all together might alleviate some of the issues, but taking these one by one, that means these weak episodes need to be sort of strong on their own, and some of these just aren't. They're just not. But what did you guys think about this episode 7, Twice the Grieving, Double the Loss? Go to leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast by the same name. That's on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that plays podcasts. We're there. And like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.